Welcome to HFY Codex, where science meets story and humanity always rises. Hit like, smash that subscribe button, and ring the bell so you never miss a mind-blowing tale from the frontiers of sci-fi, where humans never back down and always find a way. The cry for help asterisk the sky above the alien market station shimmered with blue energy shields. Holding back the vacuum of space, the ground was busy with footsteps, alien voices, robotic sellers, and loud trade deals echoing through the air. Lights blinked from every direction, flashing colors and patterns meant to grab attention. It was a place of business, noise, and indifference in the middle of the crowd. A tall alien woman fell to her knees. Her skin was pale purple, and her eyes glowing gold. In her arms, a small child lay motionless, weak and barely breathing. The mother cried out, her voice high and full of pain. She clutched a glowing silver vial and held it in the air, shouting in a language most could understand, "Please, medicine, help, someone please." No one stopped. Some turned their heads for a moment but kept walking. Others muttered that she wasn't from a recognized species. No legal papers, no credits. Security drones floated overhead, recording everything but doing nothing. The child let out a weak, gasping cough. Blue veins flashed under its translucent skin. A sign of toxin exposure. The mother rocked the child gently, her tears falling on its chest. Still, the crowd moved around her like she didn't exist. A few aliens formed a loose circle, watching from a distance. Some whispered, some pointed. But no one stepped forward. Her voice grew hoarse, but she kept begging. "He's just a baby. He needs one dose. I'll work. Clean, serve, just please," from behind a supply crate. A human technician watched the scene. His name was Calvarin. He wore a dusty gray uniform and carried a scanner on his hip. He had seen many strange things in this part of the station, but this scene burned into his eyes like fire. Cal didn't move at first. He looked around, wondering if someone else would help. Maybe a medic, maybe a priest, maybe anyone with more authority than him. But no one came. The mother's cries grew softer, her shoulders trembling from exhaustion. The child didn't move anymore. Something inside Cal tightened. He thought of his sister's baby back on Earth, born early, saved by care and love. He remembered the helpless sound of a baby crying and no one answering. He stepped forward. "Hey," Cal said gently. The alien mother flinched, her eyes wide with fear. "I'm human. I'm not here to hurt you." She didn't speak right away. She simply held the vial toward him with shaking hands. He scanned the vial. The medicine was a universal detox compound, common in human medbays, but expensive without clearance. Her child had been poisoned by chemical waste, something dumped in pore zones without filters. This should be easy, Cal said to himself. But she's non-aligned, not registered. That meant no medical help, no refugee rights, no assistance. Just silence. He knelt beside her and checked the child. Breathing was shallow, skin cold. But the heart still beat. There was time, but not much. "I can get this medicine," he whispered. "But it's not legal, and I could lose my job." The alien mother grabbed his hand. Her fingers were long and thin, glowing slightly with heat. "Please, please," she said, her voice broken but clear. "He is my only child. I crossed stars to save him." Cal nodded once. He stood up and walked away. His heart pounded with fear and anger. Inside the supply section, he used his badge. To unlock a case, he took one dose of detox serum and slipped it into his sleeve. He passed by 2 security guards, forcing himself to breathe slowly. "Routine check," he said, when they nodded at him. One of them looked at him strangely, but said nothing. Back at the plaza, the alien mother hadn't moved. Her head hung low. Eyes shut, Cal knelt down and showed her the serum. She gasped and held her child closer. He injected the serum into a soft spot behind the child's neck. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the child stirred. A small, sharp breath came from its mouth. Then another. Its fingers moved slightly. The blue veins faded, replaced with soft pink glow under the skin. The mother cried out, not in sorrow, but in joy. She held Cal's hands and pressed her forehead to his. A gesture of gratitude among her kind. "Thank you," she whispered. "You saved my world." Cal felt warmth in his chest, but also fear. Cameras had seen everything. Drones were still watching from above, and someone would ask questions. But he didn't regret it, not 1 second. He looked around at the others, still walking by, their eyes empty, their hearts closed. He knew he'd done something right, even if no one else cared. The mother picked up her child and stood slowly. She looked at Cal one last time, then vanished. Into the crowd like a ghost, Cal turned back toward his station, unaware that this one act of kindness had already begun to change everything, the outcast's decision. The next morning, Cal woke up to an alert flashing red on his comp. It wasn't a normal message. It was a warning. Unauthorized medical activity detected. Security review in progress. He sat up fast. His heart thumped in his chest. The memory of the crying alien mother, the dying child. The hidden serum, everything came rushing back like a punch to the head. He didn't regret it, but he knew what it meant. He had broken rules, and the station had no mercy for kindness. He dressed quickly and checked the halls. Everything looked normal, but something felt off. 2 security drones hovered near his doorway, silent and watching. Their glowing blue lenses scanned every movement he made. Cal walked out, heading toward the storage sector like it was a regular work shift. His mind raced. Was the mother safe? Was the child recovering? Did someone report him? Or worse, did surveillance catch everything? He passed by the medbay. The door was sealed. A warning symbol blinked on the wall. Hazard protocol, no entry. Inside, he saw workers in suits cleaning the area, sterilizing the floor. The alien mother and child were gone. He tried to ask one of the med staff, but they ignored him. When he pushed again, a voice replied coldly. The unauthorized patient was removed for safety reasons. No record remains. That sentence chilled him. No record meant erasure. It was as if the alien mother and her baby never existed. Cal clenched his fists, his jaw tightened. He wasn't going to let this go. Later that day, in the dark back alley behind the vendor stalls, a sanitation worker approached him. The worker was short. With gray skin and large eyes, he looked nervous. But his voice was steady. "You helped the Zyrene mother," the worker said quietly. She was taken to Sector 9, the place where no one goes. Cal's eyes widened. Sector 9 was the underworld of the station, full of waste, broken pipes, and those cast out by society. No air filters, no light, and no rules. Refugees and outcasts hid there, waiting to die or disappear. Why would they take her there? Cal asked, the anger rising in his throat. She did nothing wrong. They say she doesn't belong. The worker replied, they say compassion breaks structure. That night, Cal packed supplies. He took med patches, protein bars, a small oxygen mask, and a flashlight. He grabbed his old boots from his military days and slid his knife into the side sheath. He wasn't just going to look, he was going to help again. He slipped past cameras and checkpoints, using forgotten service tunnels and vent shafts. His breath echoed off cold steel. The deeper he went, the darker it became. Soon, only the flashlight lit his path. Dust floated in the air like mist, and strange sounds echoed around him. After 2 hours of crawling, climbing, and walking, he reached the edge of Sector 9. The smell hit him first, a bitter mix of metal, rot, and dampness. Pipes hissed steam in the shadows, and broken machines sparked in corners. Then he heard crying. He followed the sound. Careful with each step, a dim fire burned in a metal drum. Round it were 3 alien refugees, thin, sick, and silent. One of them pointed toward a small, broken room without speaking. Inside, he saw her. The Zyrene mother sat against the wall. Her child curled in her lap, still alive but weaker than before. Her eyes were swollen from crying. Her face lit up when she saw Cal. Her mouth opened, but no words came. Cal dropped to his knees. "What happened?" he asked softly. "They left us here," she whispered. "He needs another dose." "But I don't have it. He's fading." Cal checked the boy. Fever, shallow breathing, skin turning dull. The detox serum had helped, but only bought them time. The toxins were deeper, spreading slower now, but still killing him. "I'm not leaving," Cal said firmly. "We'll fight this together." The mother's eyes filled with tears, not of pain this time, but of hope. She held Cal's hand tightly, like someone holding onto a lifeline. Suddenly, from outside, a voice echoed through the pipes. "He's down here, the human from the medbay." Cal grabbed the child. "We have to move," he said. The mother stood quickly, despite her weakness. Together, they slipped into a narrow vent behind the wall, guided by Cal's flashlight and the mother's memory of hidden tunnels. They moved quietly, fast, breathing hard, above them. The footsteps of guards echoed like thunder. The mother whispered directions, turning right, then left. Until they found a hidden maintenance room far from the search zone, they collapsed inside. Gasping, shaking, but safe. For now, Cal looked at the child again. His pulse was slower, his skin was cold. There was no time left. Cal knew what he had to do next. He didn't care about the rules anymore. The system had failed. The people had turned blind. But he wasn't going to let a child die in the dark. He looked the mother in the eyes. "Where?" "Going to save him," he said. "I'll find what he needs. Even if I have to steal it from the stars." And in that moment, surrounded by shadows, he became more than a worker, more than a rule breaker. He became the only light left in a place built to forget people like her. The council's warning message was waiting when Cal returned to the surface. It blinked on his datapad like a cold eye. By order of Human Consular Command, report immediately. He didn't go right away. First, he washed his hands. They still smelled of rust and burned wires from the underlevels. His arms ached. His clothes were dirty, but his mind was clear. The child was still alive. Barely, but alive. And the mother silent. Grateful nods stayed with him like a scar that refused to fade when Cal entered the consular office. He was met with silence. The room was white, sterile, and too clean. 3 officials sat behind a table, their faces cold. 2 were humans. 1 was an alien from a trusted species. All of them wore the same expression, one of disappointment, dressed as calm. "Technician Cal Varon," said the woman in the center. "You're being reviewed for unauthorized contact, illegal medical access, and breaching controlled sectors." Cal didn't blink. "I helped a child who was dying," he said. "You helped a non-aligned refugee," the alien counselor replied. "An unregistered species. Outside legal protection, your actions could be seen as a political violation." "A baby was dying," Cal repeated, "and no one else cared. That is not your decision to make." The woman said, "You are a logistics technician, not an envoy, not a healer, not a judge." They questioned him for nearly an hour. Every word felt like a blade trying to cut away his reason, but he didn't back down, not once, when they finally dismissed him. The alien counselor gave one last warning. "If your choices spark an incident, you will carry the burden, not the council." Outside, Cal leaned against the wall, breathing hard. The metal under his hands was cool, but the fire in his chest was not. He had seen the truth in their eyes. They weren't angry about the risk. What frightened them was the idea that others might do the same. Kindness was dangerous. Cal didn't return to work that day. Instead, he went to the slums again. This time through a longer route. When he reached the old maintenance room, he found the alien mother waiting. Her child lay curled beside her, pale and silent, but breathing. They came. She whispered, "Not guards, others. Watchers." They said nothing, just stared and left. Cal nodded. He wasn't surprised. Something was changing. Word was spreading. Maybe it was whispers in the dark or silent recordings passed through back channels, but someone out there was paying attention. That night, he stayed with them. He connected his datapad to old cables and hacked into abandoned medbay records. He searched for antidotes, symptoms, anything that matched the child's condition. After hours of scanning files and bypassing blocked protocols, he found a match. The toxin was from a mining planet used by corporations to dump chemical waste. The planet had no protection, no cleanup. The Zyrene mother must have crossed that world in desperation. Not knowing what waited there, the cure wasn't rare, just restricted. Only authorized personnel could request it. The serum was stored in Level 12's cold vaults. Behind biometric locks and drone patrols, he stared at the screen, knowing what that meant. Breaking in would make him a criminal. Not just a technician with a conscience, but if he didn't, the child would die. Then something else caught his eye. In one of the med logs was an old photo blurry. Taken from station security, it showed Cal kneeling by the alien mother in the marketplace. Holding the vial, injecting the serum, saving the child. It had been uploaded without a name, just the tag, human compassion. That post had thousands of silent shares. Someone had watched, recorded, and shared it. Cal wasn't invisible anymore. He turned off the pad and looked at the sleeping child. The mother rested against the wall, her eyes half closed. He whispered to himself, "They know now. So I might as well give them a reason to keep watching the next day." Cal entered Level 12 in full uniform, pretending to run a supply check. He bypassed scanners using a cleaning drone as cover. The cold vaults hummed with frozen mist. He used his badge, then a bypass chip, then a stolen retinal code from a locked personnel file. It took him 12 minutes, but he got the serum. He didn't hide it this time. He walked out openly, straight. Past the guards, not running, not sneaking, just walking like a man with a mission. The security system logged everything, and Cal knew it, but he also knew something had shifted. This was no longer about one child, one mother, one act of kindness. This had become a question the whole station would have to answer. How long can a society survive when mercy becomes illegal? The sickness below * the hallway reeked of heat and chemicals. The door behind Cal sealed with a hiss, and the silence ahead pressed on his chest like a weight. He had gone deeper this time, beneath even the known slums, into the oldest level of the station. Level 0, a place removed from maps, forgotten by law, and feared by anyone with sense. He didn't come here to hide. He came to find out what others refused to see. The deeper he walked, the worse it got. Broken air vents coughed dust, pipes leaked with green liquid, and the floor shook from distant machinery. This place had once been a service zone. Now it was a graveyard of abandoned tech ant people. He turned the corner and saw them, dozens of alien families crammed into the corridor, makeshift tents made from scrap metal. Food wrappers on the floor, and worst of all, the smell of sickness. It wasn't just the Zyrene child now. More were coughing, shaking, burning with fever. When they saw Cal, some pulled back, others looked with hollow eyes. The Zyrene mother stood quickly and pointed toward her son. The boy lay still, wrapped in cloth, his breathing shallow, his skin now a strange purple gray. Cal rushed forward and pulled the serum from his bag. He injected it carefully, counting the seconds. The mother clutched his arm, her eyes full of fear and trust both. After a long moment, the boy gasped, then took a fuller breath. Cal placed a hand on the child's chest and felt a steadier heartbeat. "He'll make it," Cal said quietly. But when he looked up, more mothers had stepped forward. Some held babies. Others held hands of coughing children. One older alien leaned against a wall, her skin flaking, her breath wet with poison. "The sickness is spreading," the Zyrene mother said. "I told them what you did. Now they hope to." Cal felt the pressure rise in his chest. He had brought more than hope, he had brought expectation. They thought he could fix this, all of it. But he was just one man, with a stolen serum and no plan. He stood up and faced them. "I'll try," he said, "but I'll need help." The older aliens looked unsure, but one young girl stepped forward. Her species was unknown to Cal, small and thin, with blue-tipped fingers and wide silver eyes. She said softly, "Tell us what to do," and that's how it started. Cal divided the corridor into sections, using broken crates to mark off quarantine areas. He taught the aliens how to boil cloth and hot metal sheets to kill infection. He turned empty barrels into water collectors and used old filters to clean the air bit by bit. He cut his uniform to make bandages. He used his last toolkit to turn waste vents into airflow systems. The work was rough, but the aliens learned quickly. They had survived everything else. Now they learned how to fight with knowledge. Days passed, and more joined them. Some brought herbs, old healing kits. Others brought nothing but hands ready to work. Cal began drawing diagrams in the dust, showing how to isolate patients, how to burn infected waste, how to build heat traps for fever control. The Zyrene mother stayed at his side, translating, comforting, teaching her people the human ways. She was no longer just a mother, she was becoming a leader. Then came the message. A low buzz echoed from a wall speaker, long thought broken. The voice was sharp and mechanical. "This is station control. Unauthorized gathering detected in level 0. Cease activity and prepare for removal." Cal stared at the speaker and felt the rage grow inside him. "Removal?" he muttered. Like trash, the aliens around him froze in fear. But Cal stood up, raised his voice, and said, "No one is removing anyone. Not this time." He called on an old contact Trima, a human smuggler who owed him a favor. She arrived through a service shaft, carrying a stolen kumbakan and several ration boxes. She handed Cal a transmitter. "You sure about this?" she asked. "Once you go public, there's no turning back." Cal nodded. "Let them see what they ignore." He placed the transmitter near the sickbed of the Zyrene child and activated it. A live feed started. It showed the dim corridor, the makeshift med zone, the alien children coughing and recovering under human-taught care. He looked into the lens and said, "These are people, not pests. They're dying because no one helped. I did what I could. Now it's your turn." The broadcast went viral within hours. People across colonies, ships, and sectors watched it. Some cried, some raged, others sent aid. But not everyone was happy. The station's command declared the broadcast illegal. Cal was branded a violator of interspecies regulation. A removal team was dispatched to level 0. Armed and authorized to use force, Cal didn't run. He stood in the middle of the corridor. Surrounded by the aliens he had saved, he raised his hands and waited. If they were going to erase this place, they would have to do it with everyone watching, because now the galaxy had seen the sickness, not just in bodies, but in the system itself. The uprising begins. The first shot wasn't fired from a weapon. It came from a camera, a drone camera, old and shaky, floated just above a ventilation duct. Watching Cal stand in the middle of level 0, with arms raised, behind him, dozens of alien refugees stood silently. Shoulder to shoulder, some were weak, some still sick, but none of them moved, none of them ran. And when the security unit arrived with armor and shields, The drone kept filming. "Disperse now," the lead officer shouted through a voice amplifier. "This gathering is unauthorized. Leave the zone immediately." No one moved. Cal took one step forward. "You want to clear this place?" he said. "Then show the galaxy how you treat the sick and the poor." The officer hesitated. A command came through his earpiece. Then, slowly, the security unit turned and backed away. Not out of mercy, but because the footage had already reached the higher decks. And beyond, within hours, the video spread across space channels, social networks, even news satellites. It was viewed by millions in different systems. The title read, "One Human Stayed." Messages began to pour in, some from doctors, others from strangers offering help, but just as many came from people angry at the truth, blaming Cal for breaking order, for stirring chaos, for embarrassing humanity. But Cal didn't stop. He built more filter units from old tech parts. He taught more refugees how to use plasma burners to destroy bio-waste. He organized teams to go through the lower vents and find others hiding in fear. Everywhere he went, someone recognized him now. They didn't say his name. They called him the one who helped. He no longer worked alone. The Zyrene mother helped teach basic healing to mothers from 4 other species. Her son, now awake and walking, handed out clean bandages and food rations with quiet pride. Even the smallest children joined the effort, bringing water, wiping down walls, holding lights during surgeries. Cal's old friends started taking risks too. Rima hacked ration lines and diverted supplies. A maintenance worker rerouted power to their hidden med zone. A junior medic leaked old medical guides in alien languages. Hope was growing, and so was fear from those in power. One night, while Cal was checking on a boy with breathing trouble, a voice crackled from a hidden speaker in the ceiling. It wasn't a warning this time. It was a message from the human. "Council's representative, cease your activities and return to your assigned zone." "Mr. Varan," the voice said coldly, "you are creating unrest among aligned species. This is your final notice." Cal stared at the speaker, then turned it off without answering. Around him, the sick children kept sleeping. The lanterns kept glowing. The air purifier kept humming. He wasn't going anywhere, but the real shift came days later when a girl named Koji arrived from another sector. Her people were known for staying silent, but her face was swollen from infection. Her little sister already unconscious in her arms. They had walked for hours through duct tunnels, just to find Cal. She collapsed at his feet, whispering, "Help. They said you would help." He knelt and picked up the sister carefully. "We will," he said. "You're safe now." Someone captured that momentary still image of a human lifting a dying alien child under flickering red lights. It went viral even faster than the first video. This time, it didn't just spark sympathy, ignited rage. Across the colonies, workers refused to move shipments to the station. Some pilots declared they wouldn't dock with any system that ignored refugee lives. A council member resigned publicly, citing moral disgust. The system was cracking. Cal gathered the others in a wide hall near the old power core. They had lights now, tables, even real medical supplies. "This isn't just about survival anymore," he said to the growing crowd. "This is about respect, about being seen." The Zyrene mother stepped forward beside him. "You gave us hope," she said. "Now we give it back. Together." They declared the birth of the Refugee Health Network open to all species. Hidden in tunnels, powered by those who were once forgotten. They created encrypted messages to help sick travelers find aid, built new routes through the abandoned decks, and shared knowledge freely. They weren't hiding anymore. Cal didn't just save a child anymore. He had lit a match in a dark system, and now the flame was spreading. He knew what was coming: resistance, anger, maybe even force. But he also knew something else, something stronger than fear. He had seen the moment when silence broke, when the forgotten stood together. when a child's life became more important than rules, and now there was no going back. The cost of compassion, *, they came for him at night. Not with sirens, not with weapons drawn, but with silence. 4 figures in black uniforms entered the lower tunnels. Their boots made no sound on the metal floor. They moved like shadows. Their helmets hid their faces, but Cal didn't need to see them to know who sent them. These were not regular security. They were enforcers. Direct from the human consular authority, he was sitting with his Irene boy, changing a bandage when the power dimmed slightly. That was the only warning by the time he stood up. They were already inside. Cal Veron, the lead officer, said, "You are under arrest for violation of interstellar health protocol, unauthorized resource use, and aiding non-registered entities." The room fell into silence. Dozens of alien eyes watched from the shadows. None blinking, none speaking. The Zyrene mother stepped forward and placed her body between the enforcers and Cal. "He saved our lives," she whispered. "You want to punish someone for mercy?" The officer did not reply. He simply raised a signal, and Cal stepped forward on his own. He didn't want them hurting anyone else. Especially not her. Especially not the children. He raised his hands. "I'll go," he said. "But understand this, you didn't arrest a criminal today. You arrested a healer." They bound his wrists and led him through the narrow corridors, through the filth, the light, and finally back into the polished halls of the upper decks. The contrast was brutal clean floors, perfect air, empty hearts. They placed him in a white room, cold and bright, with no windows. For 2 days, he sat there, questioned by voices behind walls. They asked the same things over and over. Why did you help them? Who supported you? What were you trying to prove? And Cal answered the same way every time, because they needed help, because no one else did it, because someone had to. Then, without ceremony, they told him he would be removed from duty, blacklisted from any interplanetary contract, and sent home under surveillance. A quiet punishment, no trial, no defense. Only silence as they walked him toward the transport dock. He saw something strange. People lining the hallway windows. Not guards, not officers, civilians, workers, aliens, even some med staff. They stood still, watching, not speaking, but many placed a hand on the glass, a small gesture of support, and then the whisper began. One voice first, then 2, then many. "Thank you," they said. "Thank you," again and again. Echoing through the steel like a pulse, Cal kept walking. But his chest felt heavy, not from shame, but from knowing his time was ending here. His fight, his work, his part in this. Movement was closing, but the movement itself was not. Back in the tunnels, the Zyrene mother gathered the children and told them stories of the human who stayed. She taught others how to purify air, how to clean wounds, how to share what little they had. The refugees had learned more than survival. They had learned to trust each other. In hidden corners of the galaxy, medkits began to appear in black market stations, small boxes marked with a single human handprint. Somewhere in the shadows, old rebels, smugglers, and medics began to pass on Cal's message. Compassion doesn't need permission. A month later, on Earth, Cal sat quietly in a rural home assigned to him by the government. He wasn't allowed to travel, not allowed to send messages off-world, but one day, a package arrived at his Dorno return address. Only a fingerprint scanner. He opened it and found 3 things. The first was a hand-drawn image. Rough but clear, it showed him surrounded by alien children, smiling. The Zyrene mother standing behind him with her hand on his shoulder. The second was a crystal cube. When activated, it played a message in her voice. Your light saved many. Now we carry it forward. You are not forgotten. The third was a plant, tiny, glowing, native to the Zyrene homeworld. Known to bloom only in places where the dying had survived, Cal placed it by the window, and for the first time in weeks, he smiled. He had lost everything they said mattered: his job, his status, his future. But in the hearts of those he helped, he had become something else, a symbol, a story, a spark, and across the stars. That spark was already turning into fire, the legacy of a single act. It started with a name, whispered in the dark corners of space. Not a soldier's name, not a captain's, not a hero from the old wars, just a technician, just Cal Veron. On a refugee ship orbiting a broken mining moon, a child asked his mother, "Why do we have clean water now?" She smiled softly and told him, "Because one human stayed." In a trade port built from scrap and dreams, a young alien girl wore a hand-stitched jacket with a red symbol on the sleeve, a single human palm print with 5 stars above it. Traders who saw it offered free medicine and safe passage. They knew what it meant. And in the ruins of Level 0, where toxic air once choked the forgotten, a new voice rang out strong, proud, full of life. "You're safe here," the Zyrene mother said to a trembling traveler. "We learned from the one who showed us how." They didn't need to speak his name anymore. His actions had become more than memory. They had become movement. The Refugee Health Network grew in silence and in strength. What started as cloth bandages and whispered lessons became organized aid stations hidden throughout black market hubs and neutral space zones. Outlaws smuggled medkits instead of weapons. Refugees became healers. Children became builders. And stories became lifelines. No one asked permission, because they had already seen what waiting for permission cost, and somewhere far from all of it, Cal lived quietly on Earth, tending a small garden. He wasn't allowed to travel or speak publicly, but people still found him. They would sit on his porch, aliens in disguise or humans pretending to be delivery drivers, and they would say only one thing: "Because of you, I survived." He always nodded, always smiled, always said, "I just did what anyone should have." But he knew that wasn't true, because most people didn't. One day, a stranger left a letter tucked in the roots of his glowing Zyrene plant. It had no signature, just words. "The Council rejected our motion to provide aid to non-aligned species," but they did not stop the vote. Enough hands were raised. The change is real. The law is different now. You were right. He read the letter 3 times, then folded it slowly. His hands trembled not with fear, but with relief, far away. In the center of a political capital, orbiting a golden star, an announcement rang out across public channels for the first time in recorded history. Aid had been extended to refugee species without alignment. No IDs, no contracts, only need. The official who signed the declaration had once been a junior observer when Cal stood in the hallway, hands bound, escorted in silence. That image had haunted her since, and now it had shaped her vote. Years passed, and Cal never returned to the stars, but the stars began to change because of him. He received a package once a year, always from a different sender, always containing one thing: a flower from a distant world blooming in soil that once held only pain. He kept them in glass jars on his shelf, each one glowing faintly in the dark. The Zyrene mother sent no more messages, but her final gift remained. A crystal cube sealed with her voice. When he played it again, late one quiet night, she said, "You gave me the strength to fight. Now others carry it. We are many now, and we remember." He sat alone, watching the stars through a dusty window, and thought about how all of it had started. One moment, one child, one decision. He hadn't saved a galaxy. He hadn't won a war. He had simply stopped, listened, and acted when no one else would. And in that single act, he had reminded the universe of something it had forgotten: that compassion, when chosen freely, could move mountains, cross stars, and rewrite even the coldest laws. So when people asked who Cal Veron was, no one gave his title. No one spoke of his punishment or his exile. They Simply said, he was the one who stayed.